So here we have baseline assumptions, actual plus remaining. So we have projects that might fall in these categories. And here, for instance, in execution, we have a project that was baselined at 40,000, and actual to date plus forecast remaining shows it's going to come in under that. So that's a good thing. And so if we sum all these up, we see we're at, around 448, baseline 466. This is a bit of that principle of Gestalt we were talking about. So here we have access to the detail, but we also have the whole, the view of the whole, which gives us a little bit different view than just looking at the individual sums of the parts there. So this is a prime example of that and how Primms helps you do that. The other thing that I often get a discussion on and talked about is why quality gates, and does this how does this work with other scheduling functions? So basically, the quality gates are used as the kind of the common benchmark for all projects, whether they're small, whether they're big. They're the point, kind of a pivotal point that allows the project manager to manage both upwards to senior management and sponsors and downwards. And so essentially, Q gates or quality gates are allowed for consideration of quality, making sure that you're managing quality criteria as well as completion criteria. What it also does, it minimizes or allows the project manager to minimize complexity overload. We're not dealing with thousands of activities and just checking the boxes where it becomes kind of just a very, very almost non-thinking kind of a way of managing. And sometimes I've worked on project schedules that have been well into the thousands of activities, and unless you have a way of operating more strategically, you really are able to you'll lose control of your project. And then it's also the right level of detail for stakeholders. So what you often get in project environments is that some people want more detail, some people want less detail, and typically the quality gates are about what's right. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that we would not advocate using detailed schedules, and in some cases very large schedules, for certain kinds of projects that warrant it. So we have a principle, it's kind of an Einstein rule, that says we try to make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. And so what that is kind of suggesting, and what experience shows, is that if we use the quality gate as the key point of schedule and performance control, probably somewhere between 30 to 50 of our projects, that's good enough. Another maybe 30 to 50 require more larger schedules to support the quality gates. And then when we do that, we want to be wise about using other visualization sources here, such as S-curves. And one of my favorites is, even on very, very large projects, what you can do is reduce the complexity by just showing cumulative activity completions, plan versus actual. And it gives you a much, much better understanding of where the project is at, combined with the quality gates and with the slip chart, than just looking at Gantt bars. You need, again, the mind is hierarchical. You need to move the level of focus to a higher level in your hierarchy. It's a pretty key point. The next thing about quality gates that's quite useful is that projects, especially technology projects, where you can get thousands of bits of information regarding the project performance or things that you have to manage, such as data objects and so on, pretty much you can kind of think of projects in an S-curve as being a chain of decisions that have to be made. Question marks kind of reflecting decisions, one following another. And this thing that we call the critical path is really the longest chain that exists on that. And what we find is that this may be the way we plan our project, but risks start to emerge and issues start to emerge here. And these kinds of things can change the critical path and extend it. So one of the things that quality gates do is that they force this reckoning of these issues and risks if we're not meeting our sufficiency criteria, and keeping the project intact, so that we have to deal with these early rather than later, to where we end up with this incomplete activity being pushed down later in the life cycle. That can be the death of projects. And so it's this idea of forcing the confrontation of issues early that is critical to the success on many of these, and quality gates really help that. And so Primms has uses quality gates very, very well, I would say, and it's also very much a part of this extensive risk management component that we have in the tool for managing projects, spotting the risks, making sure they're dealt with early. So that pretty well describes a lot about the execution of projects. And we'll get a little bit more into the risk management right now. Again, here's our admin screen where we have our local admin looking at our sample project, our project management systems. Here's our milestones. And we can enter risks in Primms, both from a standard viewpoint, just as a project manager, entering risk management and then just going to and entering information in the risk register. Or we have a powerful capability here of what we call voice of the team functionality that allows anybody who's on the project team or a stakeholder to go in and press the button and enter risks. And we'll take a look quickly at both. Where we have one where basically the project manager would perceive risks, indicate what those are, put them on the standard PMI kind of risk severity versus risk likelihood scale, and assign an owner, and then track the disposition of that. What we also have in this is a log system that allows the mitigation steps to be documented, and also we have a performance moderator role here that kind of walks the person through problem solving, structured problem solving, if that's required. So that's kind of the risk register component that probably many of you are familiar with. But there's also a risk management piece here that's really voice of the team. And when the people hit the voice of the team button, essentially this prompts some questions. What are the risks that you see currently jeopardizing the project milestone? What does senior management need to know about the project, may not know? So again, it allows this vetting or this airing of all issues. And on certain kinds of projects, such as R&D projects, such as first-time releases of new platforms and so on, these are very much discovery-oriented kinds of projects that this kind of thing can be very helpful. It also allows people to do voting on the likelihood of meeting criteria on quality gates, and it brings charts available for that. So again, this is hopefully just kind of giving you an overview of some of the functions. We could talk probably for an hour, well over an hour on each of these topics. The next item that we want to talk to that's in the Primms tool is this concept of mentoring. It has a very sophisticated mentoring component to ensure that people get the skills or obtain the skills that are necessary, not just the knowledge necessary, but the doing, the execution of work, and the validation of that. So what we have is that we kind of start from I'll say maybe a theoretical standpoint from Benjamin Bloom, dealing with what are the domains of learning, and what we see is that we have knowing. People have to know things, and those of you that have taken your PMP exam or some other exam for certification know what knowing is. It's knowledge and being able to pass a test, right? But that's only one component of it. There's also the doing. And the doing is not necessarily the same as knowing, and just because you know something doesn't mean you can do it. And so Bloom brought a lot of this out a long time ago, and somehow we've kind of, probably by convenience, just kind of gone into this idea of saying, well, if we just take tests, then we're good enough, right? Well, not necessarily. And so what we are doing here is saying that what Primms allows is more of a shift towards measuring the doing, and that is a key component. So essentially, you can think of this as a vector, is where we tend to typically just be in the knowing realm. We pass tests and we get our PMP and we're happy, and therefore we know everything, right? And many of you may have seen in some cases that doesn't mean we know everything or can do everything. And so it's this validation of the doing and the repetition of doing that is essential to really